Well, good evening. It's Wednesday at 8 p.m, so it must mean another episode of Embrace Live. Hope everybody's doing well on this Wednesday night. Hump Day, as is known, kind of as we climb and we start nicely heading towards the weekend. Hope everybody's doing all right. We all have different kind of days, so obviously some are up, some are down. Hopefully it's not too bad for you. And, as always, I'd really encourage if you're going through stuff at the minute, then, get in touch with somebody, all right? Hopefully you've got friends. If you do the church thing within friends and family within church, if not, get in touch with us. We'd love to kind of connect with you and, maybe see how we can kind of help in some way. All right, so just to introduce myself, if you haven't caught an episode before, my name's Dave Dixon. I have the privilege of being a member of Embrace Church in Darlington. I get to serve in lots of different ways, including on the leadership team there, and I love it. It's great. Lovely, bunch of people, or family as we call each other. That's a big value that we have in Embrace Church. And it's great. And we kind of started these episodes back in kind of June, July time. In fact, actually, this is episode 26, would you believe? And I'm really, really pleased tonight, actually, because we managed to find a date for my amazing long-term friend, best buddy, Mr. Steve Whitehouse, to join us tonight. Well, we'll come over to Steve in a moment just to see how he's doing. He's not actually too well, I have to say. He's actually isolating at the moment, but he's still agreed to come online, and hopefully we can kind of get him for a full hour. I'm just keep looking at my other monitor on here just to make sure that he's still on screen and hasn't keeled over yet. Yeah, he's pretending to keel over at this moment in time. So hopefully we can make it. We'll see how he gets on. So welcome. I like to say it's great. We started these Embrace Live sessions, last summer, and we try and keep to every Wednesday, apart from school holidays, to be honest. And this is what happens when you're a teacher like I am. We really work in term times, or so they say. We try and cover lots of different things. It's not just about Embrace Church. It's about the church with a capital C. And it's great that we've been running a series for a number of weeks now, where we've been able to connect, and that's still the plan, to keep on connecting with other people across the region, across the country, wherever, abroad if we can. And I've got some things, some ideas about, who's going to, come on and things like that. We've got quite a few people lined up, which is great and exciting. So I really want to encourage you to, set your reminders, 8 o'clock on a Wednesday. If you can, join us live, or you can catch up via our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. And, if you want to, then feel free to obviously head back into some of the other episodes that we've got posted up there for you. And, you can join us then. And as always, we'd love to hear you, love for you to get in touch. But the beauty of a live session is that we get to, say hello to people and, obviously interact with them online, live as it suggests. So quick hello to Mike. Thanks for joining us all the way from Middlesbrough, not too far away. Thank you. As always, we've got Sue and Bill from Darlington, which is brilliant. And then mighty Philip Cartmel as well joining us as well. So I know we're all good friends, which is brilliant, and really looking forward to kind of chatting with Steve tonight, really. And like we've been doing for a number of weeks, really, we've had this kind of leaders kind of series, really, and hearing from people who are involved in lots of different areas of the church and the community and so on. But last summer I did a kind of mini series on chatting with worship leader buddies from around the kind of region and so on. And I'm really pleased that we're going to take a break from the leader series, but actually concentrate on a different kind of leading, which is leading worship. If you don't do the church thing, it's worth saying that the Bible says that worship is a lifestyle. It's all of our lives. But, if you talk about worship within a church kind of context, most people will kind of consider that to be, or have an understanding that it's the singing side of things, the musical side. It's much more than that, but obviously that plays a huge part often when people gather together to praise and worship Jesus, okay? And, things like, songs, a range of musical style, just like there's a range of flavours of churches, as I like to say. So, it's going to be great to kind of hear you from Steve tonight. In fact, actually, why don't we just pop over to Steve now, just to put him on camera, just to say a quick hello, and then we'll kind of get into things in a moment. So, Steve, how are you?
Good evening. I'm all right.
You're okay?
Not bad.
Not too bad.
Well, a few aches and pains, but I think I'm over the worst of the COVID.
Yeah.
Just gonna get a negative test now, and I'll be free again.
Free. free of, absolutely. Well, we do honestly appreciate you kind of, even when you're not well, but joining us tonight and stuff like that. And hopefully, like I say, we pray that you'll be COVID free as soon as possible.
Well, it's lovely to talk to somebody for a change.
Well, we'll come back to you in a moment, Steve. That's all right. And we
okay,
I've just you say, having a chat through. All right. So, as always, we want to make it interactive. So please feel free to post your comments and your questions for Steve. We want to certainly hear a bit of his story. We do that every week. Every guest that we have, we want to hear a bit of their story. But then, we want to kind of just focus a little bit on, the musical aspects. And so, things like Steve's musical, influences and how did he get involved with the musical side of things, and what does that look like for him, and what kind of tips and kind of experiences and advice can he pass on to many of us who are involved in the worship aspects. And actually, don't feel excluded in that. If you've got questions and maybe you're not musical and you want to know, or maybe suggestions, we're always open to that. I know Steve will be open to that, and I'm certainly open to that as well. Also being involved in leading worship in church circles, that, if you're, what would be helpful from a non-musician kind of point of view. So we just want to, we want to hear what you've got to say tonight. So please feel free to kind of comment and question. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run the kind of little worship intro video that I've got, and then we'll head over to Steve and we'll just kind of chat through. And like you say, hopefully we can get through the episode without him keeling over. That'd be good. He's laughing. That's all right. So that's a good sign. Okay, we won't be laughing if that does actually happen. There we go. So here we go. Let's run the worship intro video and then we'll talk with Steve. Here we go.
Praise the Lord, all my soul. Forget not what he's done. Forget not what he's done. Praise the Lord, evermore. He surrounds you with his love. Surrounds you with his love. Yeah. He surrounds you with his love.
Well, hello again. All right, so, great to have you with us, Steve. You still with us?
Great to be here.
Yeah,
still here.
good stuff.
Still breathing.
Just before we get, obviously chat and just find out a bit more about you, Steve, to be honest, because I've known you for about 150 years, it feels like, and, which is, fantastic and long time. I don't have much of a memory, but you might be able to remember a lot better than I, because you can remember my very first words to you, which we'll get to, I think. In a wonderfully godly moment many years ago.
It encouraged me so much.
I bet it did. I have that gift of encouragement. But before we get into all of that, let me just say that in the intro video I've just played, and actually the countdown timer, the music that is playing is by a wonderful group of people from Taking Ground Churches, Taking Ground Music. So Embrace Church is part of a family of churches in the northeast, or sort of actually northern parts of England, further than northeast. And Taking Ground Music are wonderful people who kind of come from different churches and so on, who songwrite and produce music and stuff. And that was a little bit of footage of one of the worship evenings that was put on, pre-COVID and things like that. So really check out their music, because they are really fantastic people, first of all, but really talented musicians and really fantastic songwriters and so on. And Steve, I know that you've done it. You're a fantastic musician. I admire you a lot. Again, going by what I said to you first of all when we first met, and obviously you're a talented musician as well. But you've done songwriting and recording and things like that. So it'd be good to kind of tap into your experience really and those kind of areas and just kind of talk around that kind of stuff. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
just before we kind of get into the musical side of things, which, I mean, you and I have spent many, many hours upon hours and days and weeks chatting music and, much to the frustration of our good lady wives when we get together. And we always have the moment when we carve out every time we meet to talk about guitar gear and stuff like that, and compare lists of wish lists and things and what we can't afford and all of those kind of things. But before we get into all of that, tell us, who are you? If people who haven't met you before, first of all, they're missing out big time. But who are you, and what's your kind of context? Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm Steve. I come from Teesside. I was born and raised in Stockton.
Good man.
Uh, I I come from a kind of mixed church background in that my family are Roman Catholic, and I had a kind of bit of an experience at church when I was younger, and then kind of went away from it a bit, and then got reconnected um, through the local Baptist church on the Hardwick estate, which is Hardwick Baptist Church, who are still there and still doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
And they invited me to go to a Billy Graham crusade at Roker Park, which I believe you were at the same one, Dave.
Was indeed, yes.
And that night, although I kind of had an awareness of who Jesus was, that night when Billy Graham spoke, suddenly the pieces all started to fit together.
Yeah.
And I realised I could have a relationship with somebody who wasn't just a figure on a cross on the wall, but actually a real person who was alive today.
Yeah, amazing.
And that was probably, my first step really in kind of getting to know God.
Yeah.
And that's where my kind of worship leading journey began really as well.
Right. Cool. So, I mean, what do you do for a day job in the real world rather than appearing on live streams?
Well, I'm in a similar business to you, Dave. I work in a school. I'm a teaching assistant at a local primary school.
Can people tell already why we get on so well,
Yes. So we often talk shop.
Yeah.
And that's I've been doing that for, nearly 10 years now.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic job. I've worked with children from nursery up to year 6. And it's just amazing. You never know what you're going to get from one day to the next.
Absolutely.
Kids are brilliant.
Yeah.
I love working with them. It can be challenging at times, but it's also incredibly rewarding. And also, because I work in a Church of England school, I can talk openly about my faith, which is not always something you can do in schools.
Yeah, it's true.
But I have that privilege of being able to do that, and the music side of what I do comes into school as well. So that's been a real blessing.
Yeah, yeah. Fantastic. I'm going to put this on screen from Alan already, who's, maybe you can see that comment, Steve, that honestly, that Billy Graham crusade at Roker Park, there's been, it features in my story, it features in your story, it features in Terry Young's story, he shared it, and Pete Conroy as well, who've all featured on, so obviously it was an amazing time, amazing.
I don't think I'd be exaggerating by saying it was a seismic moment in the Northeast.
Yeah.
That was the stone thrown into the pond.
Yeah.
And the ripples have continued to go out over all these years.
Yeah.
And, tens of thousands of people have been touched, by Billy's faithfulness to come and do that.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. Obviously, we've got a number of people who were kind of commenting saying, great to see you. In fact, actually, a good friend of ours, Philip Cartmel, goes a bit further than that. He actually just calls you Steve the superhero. So big fan.
Steve Rogers.
Absolutely, I can see that. Yeah, absolutely. And so feel free, everyone, just to keep the comments and come in, and it's always good and things. So, so you talked obviously about Hardwick Baptist Church. And that was part of your kind of story, and you kind of gave your life to Jesus, as we said, dedicated your life to Jesus because you realised it wasn't just a figure on the wall on a cross; it was a living, breathing person we could have a relationship with, and that's where your kind of musical journey began as well. Before we get into the music stuff, sorry, go on, Steve. Sorry,
I was just going to say it's a bit of an interesting story because I'd never really considered music before. I got to the age of 14, I'd been through school. My music teacher had said to me one day, I don't think there'd be any point in you playing an instrument, Steve, you're tone deaf. So I never pursued it. I wasn't anything that I was particularly...
Yeah.
I liked music, I liked listening to music. I was very interested in listening to music, and I've collected records and things like that all my life. Love listening to music, but never considered be someone who would sing or play. And it was only when I got to Hardwick Baptist Church and one of the youth leaders there he came up to me one day and he said, "Steve, do you sing? Can you sing?" And I said, "I don't know." He went, "Ah." So he sat me down at the piano and he played some notes. And he said, "Well, sing those notes." So I sang the notes he played. And he said, "Well, you can hold a tune." So he said, "If you can do that, you can play the guitar." So he gave me his guitar and he said, "There's 3 chords. Go away and learn them. Come back when you know 'em."
Well, you know.
So, and that's how I got started.
Fantastic. I mean, if you had another chord in there for the 4 chords and gave you a capo, then, you know, you can play every Christian song just about there is. So, you know, what more do you need?
I've been hawking those 3 chords around for the next 30 years. So.
Love it. So that was your kind of time at, you know, Hardwood Baptist Church. And what I'm leading to is the time when actually, you know, we got to know each other and things. So it's... you know, I mean, obviously that teacher, as such is the importance of our role, was very discerning and said, you'll never be a musician and you'll never, you know, those kind of things. No point you learn an instrument, which was clearly wrong. And I too had that gift of encouragement. Would you like to tell everybody, because I don't remember this and I can't argue, but I trust you and I know you so well, but I believe it would be the kind of thing that I say, actually, particularly when I was younger.
Yeah. Well, I'd been invited by a mutual friend to come along to Stockton Baptist Tabernacle to join the youth choir. So I joined, and I joined the tenor section because I sing quite high.
Yes.
And Dave was with the big lads in the back in the bass section.
Absolutely.
And we'd had a few rehearsals together, but the tenors and the basses tend to be split off to learn their parts, and then we would all come together to kind of for a big practice with everybody. And we were having a break and I'd nipped to the loo and this enormous red-haired bloke walks in behind me and he goes, "Oh, you sing like a girl." And that was my first introduction to Dave.
"Hello, I'm Dave." "Oh, you you sing like a girl." I mean, it's true though. You know, I mean, obviously you have got a range on you. I
can't deny it.
Yeah. Okay. And, you know, that was just the amazing meeting of, you know, where we then became best buddies and we've been up to all sorts since then, you know, which is fantastic. And so, you know, obviously, you know, featuring in the youth choir at the Tab, you know, Stockton Baptist Tabernacle, it was known, Stockton Baptist Church it is now. You know, again, amazing church that, you know, was doing so much, you know, it features so much in my story and many other people, and it's the amount of people that have come out of that church is and just what they're doing for God is amazing. You know, again, like you say, the whole Billy Graham, you know, kind of crusade at the you know in '84 was it, and things, and you know, kind of the seismic
84
movement of God, you know, which is amazing, and so. You know, then we obviously, you know, I mean, I can get a bit kind of patchy really, but you know, we kind of got involved in lots of kind of stuff. I remember, shall we just mention the wonderful band name that we put together for Stay Back, which was the kind of the Baptist Tabernacle kind of youth after church used to gather on a Sunday evening called Stay Back, and we thought it would be a good idea to, you know, put a bit of a musical entertainment evening on with a few kind of, you know, a few of us together, you know, very clearly talented. Or maybe you were. The rest of us were ropey at best. Tell us a bit more about that, Steve, that wonderful night.
Well, yeah, again, I believe it was you that instigated this, Dave, but I got a call saying, you know, we're doing this thing for Stay Back. We're going to put together this kind of spoof band. Yeah, the name of which is Billy Bowell and the Movements. I
mean, that's a classic, isn't it? Billy Bowell and the Movements. That is a classic. Yeah.
Quite how that never took off, I don't know. But
no, it's a wonder.
We did a few classic rock and roll numbers in our own individual style. Yeah,
random at best.
Random at best, and yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it was interesting is quite an understatement, really. I mean, I actually featured on drums that evening, and
yes,
and you know, I entertained everybody with my best rendition of Falling Downstairs drum fills and things, because, you know, I hadn't picked them up really, so we all had a bit of fun.
I believe there is video evidence somewhere.
There is indeed, actually. If you search, you know, and you know, happy enough to spend some hours doing that, you can search on YouTube and you will find Billy Bell and the Movements, and that should be on there. And so, I mean, obviously, it wasn't just that; it was a performance piece, you know. So we had some entertaining lyrics, which we enjoyed penning to well-known hits, mainly, you know, taking the mick out of my future wife and stuff like that. I actually, even though I think we spend a lot of time putting the effort in there, I think you were the one who got mobbed by 3 of the girls, didn't they? Including my future wife as well.
Well, it is understandable.
Well, this is true. This is true, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they did well to restrain themselves, to be fair.
So obviously that was a bit of, you know, a bit of fun, and it was good. I mean, it's like I say, monumental, just as much as that 1984 Roker Park Billy Graham Crusade was. Billy Bowell and the Movements at Stayback that Sunday night put us definitely on the map. But you know, let's get into the music side of things, because, you know, I'm just looking at the comments that are coming in, and you know, let's start talking about. You mentioned about being given the guitar, you can hold a note, youth choir. And what about kind of getting into leading worship? Because I'm just going to post this from Sue, who, you know, is a member of Embrace Church Darlington, and she remembers you. You know, obviously it's great to have people coming in and you know, guest slots and leading worship, and we want to get back to that when we can do that safely. But she remembers you, obviously. I'm laughing here because I can see a web link appear on the comments from Mike Connolly, and I know exactly what that's going to be. So, thanks, Mike. I knew somebody like Mike would take up that challenge and rise to it easily. How did you get into worship leading then? How did you get into that? Like you say, from being a hand of the guitar.
It did start at Hardwick. So my youth leader there, who I want to honour, Brian Balla, who was the youth leader there at the time. Lovely guy, and he loaned me his guitar and said, "Go away and learn these 3 chords."
Yeah.
And once I'd learned them, he said, "Right." So every Sunday night we'd have after church we'd have a youth meeting, and he would play guitar. So he said, "Will you just play alongside me?" So I borrowed a guitar from my brother, who happened to have one that he didn't play.
Yeah.
So I borrowed that, and I just played alongside Brian week after week after week, and then one day he shoved me out in front of the church.
Right.
Onto the platform and said, "Right, off you go." And I just want to honour the people of Hardwick Baptist Church who put up with my dreadful playing and mistakes, and with such grace and love and care.
Yeah.
And allowed me to do that. But it's how I started.
Yeah.
And then I also, you know, I served in the Sunday school there, playing for the children. Which is, you know, if you're a young musician in a church, you know, people look at the platform and think, "Oh, that's where I've got to be." But sometimes, actually, you need to maybe look at your youth and kids' work and think, that's actually where the need is.
Yeah.
You know, because often there's plenty of people get on the platform at church, but nobody's doing anything for the kids. Nobody's doing anything for the young people.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'd done a lot of work in children's worship over the years.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, again, kids are great. They don't care if you play a wrong chord. They just love you because you're there.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're an amazing role model for them. So, again, I had the privilege of being able to do that. And Hardwick Church was a big part of that, allowing me to do that and encouraging me and not throwing me out the door when I got it wrong.
Yeah. And that's important, isn't it? Obviously, somebody, you know, saw enough in you to invest in you and to give you the shove, the encouragement, but the opportunity to have a go and lead work. And like you say, in a loving environment that will kind of, you know, allow you to make mistakes but just give it a go and learn from those experiences.
Yeah. And it went on from there. Obviously, when I transferred to what is now Stockton Baptist Church, I just kind of continued in the same vein. We met up together. You were a young up and coming musician there at the time, and you know, obviously we were kind of kindred spirits in that sense of kind of wanting to kind of be involved in that, and obviously part of the youth work there is where the Crucible started, which obviously you were involved in for a very long time, and
Yeah,
I
and by
was
that
part of that band.
yeah, but I mean, just to be clear, just in case people are not, aware of this history, we're not talking about the Crucible as in the place where the snooker happens. I think in Sheffield or whatever. It was, it was a youth event, which we had the title the Crucible, but it was much more than just Stockton Baptist Church youth. It was, it was pretty unique in the area and was very well attended by other churches, wasn't it?
Yeah, it grew very big, and it was great to be part of. But it was also a fantastic place to learn.
Yeah,
And again, we had great musicians leading that. Nick Haig was the person in charge of that when we were there.
Absolutely, yeah.
You went on to take over from Nick when he moved on. But Nick encouraged us, helped us to grow as musicians,
Yeah,
gave
definitely.
us the space to make mistakes and to get better.
Yeah.
And then obviously when he moved on, you then took it on and did a similar job.
Yeah.
But it was great, and as you say, hundreds of young people from across the northeast started to come to that, and then other events grew out of it.
Yeah.
Around the northeast. So it was an exciting time to be a musician in Teesside at that time. Because it just felt like something was bubbling up in the Holy Spirit.
Absolutely.
That was just a bit different and a bit fresh.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just want to echo what you said about honouring Nick, who was just an amazing guy and an amazing musician, phenomenal musician. And I just, to kind of in this forum to thank him for his patience and his encouragement, and
Yeah.
as we I know I certainly, as I was very keen with my Marshall head, my head, cap and T-shirt, and thank you for giving us the opportunity, and within the church as well, obviously stepping back in church to give us the opportunity to do that, But the Crucible was just those years were just fantastic. Really, just what an honour to kind of just to serve and to learn in that environment, and have the honour to go and help lead worship in lots of different places as well. Like you say, it was to birth things, which was great.
Yeah, because we got to travel quite a lot around to different churches in the northeast, just doing what we did.
Yeah,
had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's the best thing I've ever done is to be able to lead people in worship. I'm never happier than when I'm doing that.
Yeah.
So to be able to have that privilege of working with other great musicians, traveling around, doing that, having fun, doing what you love, worshipping the God that I love.
Yeah.
Doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you said you're a Teesside lad and you live in Teesside again. I noticed I would say again there because there was, a period in your life of insanity where you made the decision to go down and live down south for a while, okay? Which was completely the wrong thing to do, and I'm glad you've made sense and come back to the northeast. But tell us a bit about that. Why
It took me a long time. I was looking for something new at the time. I was in a job I wasn't particularly happy with.
Mm-hmm.
I'd sort of chosen a career path, but it wasn't for me. I wasn't loving it. I was miserable. So I decided to try something different, and an opportunity came to do some youth work down south. So I thought I'd give that a go, give that a try. And I did that for just over a year. And it was okay. Again, I didn't feel that youth work was necessarily for me at the end. I really felt by the end of it, I had a better idea of what God was calling me to.
Yeah.
And it was worship is my primary call.
Yeah.
And as much as I could do youth work and I work with children, worship leading is what has always been my primary call. And so that's, at the end of that year, I was just kind of thinking, no, it's time to leave the youth work. Well, I was a bit at sea, not knowing what to do. Fiona's my wife now, but at the time we weren't married. We were engaged, about to get married that year. So we had a long, hard prayer about where we were going to live after we got married. And we'd come across this church when we were down there, and both of us really felt very strongly God was saying, you need to be part of this church for a season.
Yeah.
And we didn't know how long that season was going to be. I thought it was going to be maybe a couple of years. It turned out it was 20 years. But
Yeah.
we did some amazing things. And one of the people who we met at that church was a guy called Doug Hawley,
Yeah.
who's an amazing musician, children's evangelist, songwriter. And I, in amongst doing various other jobs, because I had to juggle, so I would often have a couple of jobs on the go. I worked for Doug, and we travelled all over the UK and various places in Canada for 10 years, doing children's events, worship events, spring harvests, all sorts of things. It was an amazing privilege, and we got to see tens of thousands of children giving their lives to Jesus over those years.
Fantastic.
And we, occasionally, I know it happens to Doug all the time. He now bumps into adults whose children now come to his events.
Yeah.
And it just ripples on and on and on.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. That was where the kind of songwriting started for me as well, because Doug's an amazing songwriter, and I had the opportunity to do some co-writing with him, which kind of encouraged me to start writing in my own right. So
tell us a bit about that then, Steve. Nice, because I'm interested in that. I've done little bits, but not really much. And clearly, Doug is an amazing songwriter, and like you said, to do some co-writing, and I know that you've got some songs that you've written as well that have been published as well, and stuff. So, tell us about how you used to go about that, or you still do, or get ideas. Again, really interesting, just so we can help the local church, to encourage the local church. Not that there's a formula, because I'm sure that it differs, but generally, how did you used to go about that, and
Yeah, I mean, it's you're right. There isn't a formula. The way I used to do with Doug, often Doug would come with part of the song. So I do. There was one particular occasion he'd written most of the songs. A song called "What Love Is This," which is a song about Jesus and about the crucifixion and his sacrifice and so on.
Yeah.
And he came to me and he said, "Look, I've written this song," he said, "but I'm really unhappy with the first verse. It just doesn't. The title wasn't "What Love Is This" at that time. It was something else."
Okay.
And he said, "I've got sort of 90% of it, but the first verse is wrong, and I don't know what it is." And he played it to me, and I just sat and thought. And then I got that idea for that. I said, "What about starting the song with a question? What love is this?"
Yeah.
To kind of imagining somebody looking at Jesus on the cross and going, seeing everything that's happened and going, what is this all about? That massive question. Who is this person? Why is he doing what he's doing? What love is this?
Yeah.
And from that line, I then got the whole verse. It just flowed in the space of a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
I'd written the whole verse. And Doug liked it, so we kind of just dovetailed it into the song, and that was it, done. And often that's kind of how it worked. Doug would come with an idea and say, "Oh, I've just got a bit stuck here. What do you think?" And I'd just go away and have a little think. Sometimes just have a pad and paper and just write things down, little ideas. And then I'd go, "Look, I've got this. What do you think?" And he'd go, "That's it. And so I love that collaboration with someone. I mean, I've written on my own, and that works as well. But I do find I work better collaborating with somebody else, bouncing ideas off each other, saying, "I've got this, where can we go from here?" And just this Christmas, Mark Miller, who's the vicar at Stockton Parish Church, he asked myself and John Cotty, who's another one of the worship leaders at our church, if we could write another chorus for a traditional carol. So John and I got together and we had a couple of carols that we were trying, and we wrote choruses for both of them, and then we decided which one we thought was best for this particular thing we were doing.
Yeah.
But what I loved was that John was really great at pushing me. So I'd come up with an idea and he'd go, "Yeah, it's good, but it's not great, Steve. Have you got something else?" And he just pushed me a little harder to improve it, to just get it, where we wanted it. So, and I really enjoyed that process, because I haven't done. You kind of get out of the habit of writing. Yeah. If you don't do it, it's like any skill. If you don't do it, you kind of get rusty. And I got, I'll be honest with you, I got a bit discouraged. Didn't feel particularly inspired, and I hadn't written for a long time. So when Mark came to me and said, "Oh, do you think you could write a chorus for this song?" I was like, "Oh, I'm not sure actually. Not sure if I could do that.
Yeah.
It's been such a long time." But just sitting down with John and bouncing ideas, it just all of a sudden I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember. I love this. This is fun."
Yeah.
You know, and we got a nice chorus out of it in the end.
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, like that, I haven't done a great deal of songwriting myself, and not for many years, and I am out of habit. I play. I struggle with the words actually. So it's amazing my experiences as well. Going back many years is when you're in a team that, like you say, people will bring different parts together. And sometimes like you said, there's no formula anyway. But somebody will get the whole thing. But actually, if you look at what's been released in terms of who gets credited, even obviously the latest big hits and things, there are multiple people who are contributing to that song who are credited for that. And I think you're right. The collaborative approach is really great. So my experience is I've got this little riff, or I've got this little idea, and then somebody else brings something. But you've got to spend time, haven't you, with a person, with a team, kind of relationally and spiritually, obviously worshiping together. Then out of that flows that creativity in my experience. So
yeah, definitely. There's no substitute for just spending time and just trying different things, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't work. And oh look, Mike's just found the
I'm just about to put that on here. So there we go. Thank you, Mike, for posting that. I was hoping somebody would, but certainly check that out. And obviously, Steve's already mentioned that he's part of the wonderful Stockton Parish Church, and Mark Miller and John Cotty and many others. Mark's also featured actually a while ago on one of these, if you want to dig out his episode and rewatch that as a worship leader. But as a church, you stream a lot, don't you? Your kind of services and have been fantastic in doing that, and really well worth watching and engaging with. And I'd really encourage you to check out that. Obviously, the kind of God rest you merry gentlemen with the additional chorus and things like that. And I agree. As you can see here, I'm going to put it on screen for everybody to see that. Yeah, absolutely. It was a real blessing. Very talented, but it's like any skill. Like you said, you reference as a skill. Skill takes development, and you've got to put in the practice and have a go. And it's great that people around you push you as well. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, Doug, what your time with Doug, and you got, it's amazing experiences of being able to kind of do all that many events and in different contexts and tour around with him, as well as juggling the other jobs that you did and so on. So, obviously it's clear, Steve, I know this, but just for people, obviously watching tonight, you've got loads of experience of working with different people, working individually, working with different people in teams, and at a high level of production in terms, because obviously you've done studio work as well with Doug, and is that right, in terms of singing and stuff and playing, as well as obviously the live stuff, and taking that to the different events around the UK and beyond, like you say, Canada, and so on. So I'm really kind of keen to kind of tap into, if you like, your experience and what would be your advice, because you talked earlier about, we talked about, the amazing opportunity that Hardwick Baptist Church gave you originally to invest in you and give you an opportunity, as a young person. And we talked about our involvement in Crucible, and very enthusiastic and very raw. And, we both, again, amazingly thankful for, Nick Hague and the church being able to invest in us and enable us and give us that opportunity. So I'm interested how you, because I know that you do this and you do this really well. I'm interested how you encourage, particularly younger people, but others as well, but younger people to come into a worship team and to feel part of a worship team, and on that journey to, get to a point where, yes, you might be encouraging them strongly, almost pushing them, because they might not have the self-confidence to do so. But, supportively encouraging them and loving them to, you know, use their gifts that God's given them, and then, you know, how you're investing in that. You know, what's that kind of process look like, and what's your experience of that? You know.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's changed over the years.
Yeah.
I think when you and I were starting out, I think in some ways it was easier then, because there was nothing. It felt like back then we were pioneering something new.
Yeah.
You know, the funkiest worship leader on the set was Graham Kendrick.
Yeah.
You know, total respect to Graham Kendrick.
Absolutely.
He pioneered an awful lot of amazing worship, and is still doing his stuff now. And then, you know, people like Noel Richards, again, were probably of the time when we were getting started. They were the worship leaders of the time. But now the scene is so much bigger in terms of, you know, worship leaders and bands, and, you know, we've got Hillsong now, and all sorts of other churches, Bethel and so on, producing absolutely stunningly amazing music, and the production values are right up here. Phenomenal stuff. And I think that's amazing, but I think it's a double-edged sword as well, because I think people look at that and say, well, how will I ever get there? And I think that's our probably, you know, as a, you know, I'm the worship team leader at Stockton Parish Church, and I think that's quite a big challenge. Is how do we help people to realise, well, okay, yeah, that's great, and we aspire to that ourselves in terms of, you know, we have at Stockton Parish Church, we do have high production values. We do want to do the best we can be. But authenticity is more important, I think, than perfection. And so I would still want to be saying to any young person that wanted to be part of our team, look, we'd love you to come and have a go. Obviously, we'd expect you to know the songs. We'd expect you to practice your instrument. We expect you to be able to be at a certain level. But also, people are still, I still pick up my guitar on a Sunday, get on the stage, and make clangers of mistakes. You know, we're all human. We do.
Absolutely.
That's okay. And I've been at a massive. In fact, I think you were there. We were at a massive worship event where Martin Smith did that, where he started a whole song in the wrong key because someone pressed the transpose button on his keyboard. You know, I remember sitting there thinking, if he can do it, then, you know, it's okay.
Absolutely, yeah. If you've got a bit of spare time, just you know, search YouTube for those worship bloopers, and there's many of them.
Yeah, but I think that for me, I still want to be able to create safe places for young people to get involved in worship wherever I can. And, you know, as I said before, serving in your youth group or in your kids' work is a brilliant way to get trained. And I remember Noel Richards saying something to me, and I loved him for saying it because I thought it was brilliant. He said, if you're too good to play for the children in your church, then you've got no business being on the platform. And I think he's absolutely right, because, you know, those kids are just as important as anybody else in church. And it's why I, you know, devoted 10 years of my life to working with Doug, because, you know, we were doing something which I consider to be absolutely vital. You know, we were growing young worshippers. And, you know, who teaches our children how to worship? It's our kids' workers. You know, and then they come in, and if they've got no musicians to kind of show them what to do and to guide them in worship and lead them, when they come into church, they come into this total alien environment that they don't get. So I think it's really important that we're encouraging our musicians to be doing that. I'm really pleased. Actually, I was talking about John Cotty again, one of our worship leaders. He was telling me that he's doing a stint in our youth group at the moment, and he's organising worship evenings now with some of our young musicians leading each other, basically. Which I'm really excited about. You know, and he's in a position to do that because he works full time for the church, so I can't do that, but he can, and so
Brilliant.
I'm absolutely delighted that that's happening, and I'm absolutely super excited to see what grows out of it.
Yeah, totally.
Because if you think about it, again, you know, we started, you and I, leading worship for our peers at youth group.
Yeah.
And then we moved on and kept going and ended up then doing it all over the place.
Yeah.
So that's where it starts, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I was, doing a series of these kind of sessions with, my worship leading buddies kind of around the area. And, obviously we'd talk about their experiences, and like we have done tonight, really, about how did you get started, and, what's that kind of look like? What's your kind of church worship team look like? And you've reflected that, which is great, because I do know that your daughters both get involved in worship team as well, and opportunities
yes,
there.
They do, yes.
Yeah, and there's many of footage, and we'll share the contact details, but there's many footage of you singing with your daughters, which is always good, almost like the Von Trapps, which is great. So I really recommend. We'll put Steve's contact details on a little bit more, particularly later on. Particularly with his his music kind of page on Facebook and wherever. It's well worth following and checking out what he's up to. Because it's not just the, shall we say, the churchy music that you do. What's your other kind of passion that you like to do, that you get dressed up for?
Yeah, well, I've loved all sorts of stuff. So I love jazz.
Yeah.
I discovered jazz. I came to jazz quite late. I remember I was round at a friend's, we were having dinner, and he put on this Frank Sinatra record. And I saw him getting this thing out the cover, and I thought, oh, hello, what's this?
Yeah.
Anyway, I was listening to it and just listening to the arrangements and the big band and everything.
Yeah.
I just thought, that's fantastic. And shortly after that, I managed to get involved with a 7-piece jazz band. So really talented musicians, with horns and double bass and all sorts of things, and it was just brilliant. A chance to do something different. It stretched me, from a musical point of view in terms of my singing and so on, and that's always a good thing to do, and it feeds into the stuff I do in worship because it makes me better at what I do.
Yeah.
We can, you can never stop learning as a musician, so there's always stuff to do and stuff to learn, and I'm always wanting to get better at singing and playing, and so doing that, I learned how to sing harmony by sitting and just forensically taking apart Everly Brothers harmonies.
Yeah.
Listen to those songs, learning, because obviously they were 2-part close harmony. I'd learned both parts, so I could sing them independently.
Yeah.
And that's because harmony's a hard thing to do.
It is.
So
it is, and you continue to
do that by.
You continue to amaze me at how good you are at doing that, because it's you're certainly a much more talented guy in that than I am, and it is great the phenomenal the understanding you have of harmony, I have to say, and again just reflects your talent, but also the hard work that you put into it and the practice that you put into it, like you say. So it's certainly evident, certainly evident, because we do enjoy making music, alongside each other with others.
Because some folks might not know that Dave and I, as well as leading worship together on many, many occasions, we've been in bands together over the years, and currently part of a band called Silver Street that does rock and roll covers, and that's great fun to do, and we love doing that. And again, it's just a different outlet for our music, but again, it stretches us, it makes us think, it makes us better at what we do, and I think that's a good thing. And
I think what illustrates quite well is our you mentioned about earlier on, obviously, as well, of being married. We're both married, and something else we have in common is that I think we've both got a bit of stick from our wives for being in the bands on the night time for our wedding dues, that kind of thing. So I think,
yes.
I remember your wedding distinctly. It was a beautiful event. I was wearing a skirt. Oh, sorry, kilt, because you were all doing that. That's all right. And, I remember distinctly because Ravanelli made his debut for the Borough on that day and scored a hat-trick against Liverpool, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But I had a better time.
And I've always appreciated your sacrifice, Dave.
So we've got about 10 minutes or so left, and thank you again, because we do recognise that you're not feeling too well, and I want to encourage you to pray for Steve as well, and many other people. Obviously, let's come against COVID in Jesus' name, and declare healing. And but I want to do two things. First of all, how do you prepare? Because I'm interested in this. How do you prepare to leading worship? How do you craft a worship set, a list of songs? If you're being asked to lead worship on Sunday or at an event during the week, whatever, how do you prepare for that personally? Because that's been a common question I've asked in these series as well.
Yeah, I mean, usually I have a week or two's notice before I'm leading, so I just try and spend some time praying, thinking about what God's been saying to me throughout the week as I've been reading my Bible, and I also do the Lectio 365. I don't know if you've heard of that 24/7 Prayer do. It's a brilliant app you can download, and there's kind of like a 10-minute morning kind of led prayer, which I find really useful. Helps me start the day, gets my thoughts in order. And then there's a similar thing for the night time as well, which I do just before I go to bed, which kind of helps me focus at either end of the day.
Fantastic, yeah.
And then I have various other kind of things that I read and stuff that pops into my email box. So I often get a good sense of what God is saying throughout the week and to me.
Yeah.
And then that kind of tends to lead me to particular songs. And there was a time a little while ago where I was quite anxious about a number of things that were going on in my life, and I just, as I was reading, I picked up a Bible, I was reading, I just really felt God just very clearly just say, "Be still."
Yeah.
So I just literally just put the Bible down, closed my eyes, and just sat in silence for nearly an hour. And then there's a Worship Central song called "Be Still."
Yeah.
I think it's called Waves, actually. The song is called Waves.
Yeah.
But the chorus is "Be still and know I am." And that song just kept going around and around in my internal jukebox. And that became the kind of centerpiece of the worship for that Sunday then, and the other songs just kind of hum off it.
Yeah.
So often that's how it works for me, is that just during the course of that week, one particular song will just start to resonate.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, yeah, that's kind of, this is an important one, and then the other songs will kind of fit in with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's similar kind of myself. I'd often get a song or a particular thought or theme, kind of coming through, as I prepare and so on, and that, like you say, other songs will flow from that as well. So after there's a great deal of skill and practice and experience in crafting. And I use that word deliberately, a worship set based on, what you feel that, the Holy Spirit is leading you through and stuff like that, and to sing and so on. It's not an easy role, and it takes a lot of experience, and like you say, it's so important that we pass on our experiences, really, because we are. I think you were describing it as men of a certain vintage before we came on air. I think was the phrase that you were using. Yeah. Yeah,
that's right. And also as well, often, Mark is my vicar, and he's the leader of my church.
Yeah.
So often once I put a set together, I will send that to him and say, "Look, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think?"
Yeah.
Because and more often than not, we're on the same page, because God's amazing. And,
amazing. Yeah.
He tends to speak to more than just one person.
Absolutely does, yeah.
And occasionally Mark will say, "Oh, I was feeling this and thinking maybe, this might be better," and we will kind of shape things together. And again, I like that collaborative approach where we can kind of come together and I'll come to it very open-handedly and just say, look, this is what I'm feeling, but I'm not the only one with a hotline to God.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
if you're feeling something different, then please do tell me. And because we want, at the end of the day, I want to do what's best for the church, point them to Jesus, and get out of the way.
Yeah. We're absolutely serving the church. Absolutely serving the church family. So I want to finish with because I went back and just kind of had a look at my notes in this series, and I thought, it was something that just kind of came to me in one of the first episodes that we did, and I thought, oh yes, I forgot about this. So I'm going to ask you. I'm going to finish in the same way that I finished the other ones, and I want you to name. So it's almost like desert island discs kind of stuff. I want you to tell me your top three worship bangers, as we call them, kind of thing. Your top three worship tunes, songs maybe from that represented a time, a period, or whatever. That if you couldn't play anything else for the rest, they would be the three that you would take with you onto the desert island or whatever, those kind of things. So, and we'll finish with that. This is really, it's a really, really tough question, and I love asking it.
It is
I wouldn't like
question.
to answer it.
Okay. Well, one worship leader that I do absolutely think is amazing is Phil Wickham.
Yeah.
And just he's so inspiring. Again, I think you and I were at the same Worship Central conference, and he came on without a band, just him and an acoustic guitar in a room full of about 3,000 worship leaders.
Yeah.
Just stood there with an acoustic guitar and just held the room. And just took us to a place in worship that was just amazing. And he did a song there called Cannons, which I absolutely love. I think that's a stunning song, and I love singing it. And the other one that he did that night was "Is You're Beautiful."
Yeah.
So there would be, I think, two that I would definitely choose because I just think they're absolutely phenomenal songs, and they take me to a place of worship instantly.
Yes.
I'm just there. I love to sing them as well because he's a phenomenal singer.
Yes,
so
he is.
I find singing his songs very challenging, but I like that because I like to be stretched.
Yeah.
So that's good. The final song I would choose is one that's really personal, and it's by Matt and Beth Redman, and it's called "You Never Let Go."
Yeah.
And that is particularly personal to me because Matt and Beth wrote that when they lost a child.
Yeah.
And it's a song that talks about loss, and it talks about how we deal with loss and having God in that. And Fiona and I also lost a child. We lost our first daughter to stillbirth. Crikey, she would have been 18 years old last September, so that was a long time ago now.
Yeah.
But I remember having a conversation with someone at that time after when we'd lost Caitlin, and he said to me, "Steve, with everything that's happened, you've just buried your daughter. How do you keep worshipping God in those circumstances?" And I said, "I don't know how I would have got through everything that's just happened if I didn't have God with me."
Yeah.
And that song, it quotes the Psalms, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, your perfect love is casting out fear."
Yeah.
And I know that God was with me every step of the way. He didn't cause my daughter to die, but he wept with me and he put his arms around me and he got me through the grief of that.
Yeah.
Which is why that song for me is so powerful.
Sure.
And whenever I do that song in worship, I know that it will be resonating with people all around the congregation because everybody's dealing with their own problems and their own losses and their own grief in some way.
Yeah.
And we don't have an impersonal God who doesn't care, and we don't have a God who's throwing down grief and pain. He's there with his arms open saying,
Absolutely.
"Come on, cry on my shoulder."
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Steve. You know, I mean, obviously that's, you know, thanks for your vulnerability and honesty there. And, you know, it's we can have songs, and we do have songs that, you know, reflect certain periods of our, you know, journey and things like that, certain seasons and stuff like that, you know. So, you know, thank you for sharing that. I've known you many years, and, you know, in your experiences, I'm just going to put this on here just because Alan's just put this as well, and, you know, just appreciate, you know, obviously it's not just myself, but I'm just kind of talking on everybody kind of watching, just, you know, again, how amazing that is, your faith and your, you know, strength of your relationship, like you say, to go through such a painful experience, but knowing that absolute assurance that God is with you, and like you say, weeping with you, and you as a family, you're both, you know, your family are amazing. And like I said, I've known you for many years. I was wondering when I asked that question, how many would I get out of your top three. I got two. I knew you'd mentioned Cannons and You Never Let Go. I didn't think about Beautiful. I didn't think that was one that you were putting. There we go. That's good. But you know, you and I, you know, funnily enough, because we've known each other so long, and well, we're both big fans of Phil Wickham. You know, similarly, I find his songs, certainly in the keys that he sings them, for me, a mortal like me, I find them a real challenge. But like you say, I agree. It's good to be challenged. But what I really like, and we've talked about this already, you know, many times, I really like Phil Wickham because he, you know, a good song with all of that production value, and the production goes into recording. A good song can be still sang, you know, on an acoustic guitar, and I love his sing, you know, just him and his sing-along albums. If you haven't heard those, really well worth, you know, listening to on your favourite streaming service or, you know, whatever. They are amazing albums.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
Listen, time has beaten us as always. You know, the time goes really, really quickly, and you know, I'm sure as we will continue to talk for many hours off air about music and enjoy life together and stuff like that. But when you're out of isolation, that is, and
yes.
So, you know, but obviously for tonight, no. All seriousness, thank you for joining us. I know, you know, obviously, I hope you feel better soon.
It's been a pleasure.
Praying for you know, healing and protection for the rest of the family and everything else. And you know, it's been great to kind of just to benefit from your experience and talk about your, you know, your kind of relationship with God and how to encourage others, particularly children, young people, and thank you for, you know, the many years of your life so far that you've invested in children and young people, both professionally, as in, you know, the job that you do, teaching assistant, etc., but also the many years that you've been investing in children and young people in church, the local church, the wider church, through song, through music, through, you know, whatever it takes, because I know that you're an absolute amazing family who serve faithfully and tirelessly week in, week out. If you're not familiar, if you're tuning in and you're not familiar with Stockton Parish Church, absolutely check them out. You know, again, I'm just going to pop your contact details on here, and I've included Stockton Parish Church website on there as well. They're an amazing church. Steve's talked about amazing people that are in there as well. So if you are in Stockton or around then, you know, again, check them out. Again, check them out on YouTube as well. They are streaming all their services, and they've got lots of content on there as well for you to look at. They're wonderful people. And so, you know, Steve, thank you ever so much for giving up your evening.
You're very welcome.
And particularly when you're feeling a bit under the weather, he says, minimising, you know, a little bit what you've got. But apologies for that. Take care, and certainly Team Dixon will look forward to meeting up with Team Whitehouse. Or as it did say, as we mentioned before we came on air, actually, because Steve very kindly led worship at my and Jackie's wedding, and the video that we had, and we've still got that video, is amazing, because apparently your name is Steve, as on the credits of the video said Steve Whitehose. There we go. So thank you very much for your evening, Mr. Steve Whitehose. And we do laugh about that continuously. But you've been amazing. Yes. Bless you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, we'll
Take
see
care.
you soon.
Bye,
I'm just
bye.
going to finish off now just by going back to here and just saying, again, we've got a number of people lined up right up until end of March time. So please do set your reminders, 8 o'clock every Wednesday. If you want to know more about Embrace Church, then like you say, you can please check out our website and you can follow us on our socials. It'd be really helpful if you go across to YouTube and just subscribe to our channel. That way you can keep yourself up to date. And obviously you've found your way to our live stream on Facebook. So if you want to follow what we're doing and keep yourself up to date, that's great. Next week, I'm really excited as well that I've got another worship leader buddy joining us, and this, the mighty Ken Riley. From Why Friday fame, if you go back in the history books there, certainly another great bunch of guys who did a lot in terms of worship and beyond, in the area all over, and he's now based in Newcastle. So he's kind of a worship leader at City Church, I think, if I remember rightly. I hope I've got that right, otherwise that's going to be a little bit embarrassing, isn't it? But Ken's going to join us next week, so well worth tuning in. And then, obviously, like you said, we've got a full program up until the end of March, and I'm working on other people from, to kind of feature in those, beyond those dates as well. If you've got any feedback, if you have got, any thoughts, suggestions about content that we could include in Embrace Live, then please feel free to get in touch. But we are going to leave it there. Obviously, we've gone over our hour hereabouts, but that's all right. It's a little bit of leeway. Take care. Thanks again, Steve, for joining us tonight. And, I found it amazingly inspiring as always. He's such a humble guy. Always has been. And, again, he's such a talented guy. And I just thank God for him and his family. And I get to do life with him. And, he's such a close friend. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week at 8 p.m.